If we get that wrong, it's not just the traffic that's going to be lost. We lose the very voices that make the internet worth exploring. What's up, everyone? Aron here, Editor-in-Chief of ASE Labs. In this episode, we're going to continue the trend about talking about the free and open internet and advertising. But there's a looming threat on the horizon. I'm talking about generative AI. Let's start by defining what generative AI actually is. Some examples are things like ChatGPT and the generative AI summaries that you get with Google search right now. It's something that can take a large amount of information, be able to distill that, and then be able to answer queries based on that wealth of information. Where does all that information come from? It's the free and open internet once again. Will generative AI actually kill publisher traffic? That's the question that we're trying to answer. We're not talking about some vague existential threat 5 years down the road. This is happening now, and the implications are huge. From search to content discovery to revenue, from the future of journalism and the free and open internet itself, the shift is seismic. Most people don't even know what's taking place. Let's break it down. Not what just is actually happening, but why it matters and what we can do about it. First, we have to understand how publishers get traffic and why it's so fragile. In the past, publishers lived and died by referral traffic, and that referral traffic came from a variety of sources. Search engines, like Google, usually bring in high-intent users, while things like social networks just bring in a volume of users. And then there's the dedicated direct traffic, the people that actually go to those pieces of content directly without actually coming from a different source, like a search engine or social sites. That's the gold standard, the people that come back to read your content, to see and access your services. Those are the people that are the highest value. In all those cases, there is an economic model based on a simple transaction, and I keep talking about the value exchange. You, the reader, come to my website. I show you content, I show you ads. I make money from those ads. If you want a larger primer on the free and open internet, I will have a link in the description below where I cover this topic in more detail. That value exchange sounds simple, right? But it's also precarious. Publishers really never own their distribution. They've rented it from other platforms. So when platforms change the rules, such as a tweak in the Facebook algorithm or a change in the Google search, publishers start scrambling to figure out how to best optimize again. Going back to the actual channels, Google search has generally been the most reliable channel for incoming traffic. Social has been getting up there as well. Both those traffic types drive not just traffic, but also the monetization of that traffic. People generally come to certain websites and services to look for something specific. Things like news, product reviews, travel tips, opinions, and publishers try to optimize for that traffic based on their content. This gave rise to search engine optimization as an entire industry, from content farms to entire media corporations. The whole thing being built on arbitrage between clicks and CPMs. CPMs means cost per milli. In advertising parlance, that means generally every time you get an impression, you get some fraction of a cent. And the way that this works in the industry is we charge based on 1,000 impressions because it's a big enough unit that you can actually have very understandable dollar amounts. However, there has been a shift. Do you remember when Google started putting out snippets in their searches? Over time, Google began answering questions directly on the search page. That cut into click-through rates, and publishers started to feel that squeeze. You can optimize for that position 0. You could still play that game. Until now. Now let's shift to generative AI. Generative AI changes everything because it doesn't want to link to publishers. It wants to replace them entirely. For instance, ask a question in things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, or even the new Google AI summary. You don't get a list of links. You get a summary, a distilled answer, something that actually feels complete. The need to click? Gone. The need to visit the actual site? Optional. And here's the rub. Even when those answers are distilled from your content, your brand, your expertise, you might not get the credit for that. Not reliably, not at scale. We've gone from click to learn more to trust the AI to summarize it for you. It's like Google Answers on steroids, but it's across everything. Publishers, I'm actually directly talking about you now. Let's be clear. Generative AI runs on your content. Then it regurgitates in clean, concise language, generally without actually referencing where the source material came from. That's why you as a publisher should be angry. Publishers are not just losing traffic. They're losing the ownership of the content that they actually create. This would be like Netflix taking a movie, chopping it into scenes, and then putting it into an AI-generated show, all without paying the person that actually created that, and without telling the audience where it actually came from. If that sounds dramatic, think about this. Multiple publishers have already sued OpenAI. Other publishers are exploring licensing deals. Some are blocking AI bots entirely using robots.txt or robots.txt. Others are striking deals just to survive. This isn't theoretical. It's existential. It's happening right now. We've seen aggregators before. Google News was an aggregator. Facebook Newsfeed was an aggregator. Flipboard, Pocket, Smart News, all aggregators. But all those shared one very important trait. They shared traffic. They shared traffic with the publishers. They clicked out to the publishers to read the actual full articles. Even if they tried to control the experience, they eventually linked out to the publisher's site, the publisher's content. That link out created the essential value exchange that allows publishers to make money for the content that they actually author. Generative AI breaks that value exchange. It breaks that model. It doesn't aggregate content. It absorbs it. It pulls in value, digests it, summarizes it, and reduces the need to ever visit the original site. And here's the twist. It doesn't even need to be accurate. It just needs to be convincing enough for most users most of the time. And let's be honest, people are loving this stuff. And what's not to like? Faster answers, less clicks, no pop-ups, no cookie banners, no auto-playing videos, no 12-page listicles for a single piece of information. The AI experience is what people wish the web was like. We can't just blame the platforms for this. Part of this is likely a market correction. I spoke about this briefly when I was talking about the free and open internet and advertising, but publishers have gotten much better in the past few years in user experience. Think about a few years ago, and you have things like clickbaiting, very heavy SEO, very, very heavy ad load on pages. That stuff was the norm. AI offers a clean alternative, but that cleanliness comes at a cost. The destruction of that messy ecosystem that generated that content in the first place. But here's the thing, AI doesn't create knowledge. It reorganizes it. Without the original sources, the summaries become shallower, less accurate, more generic. So what now? Some are betting on licensing. Deals between OpenAI and folks like the AP and Reddit suggest that a paid content pipeline is possible. In theory, these models give AI a clean and legal data set and give publishers a new revenue stream so they can create new content. But let's be clear. These things are the exception, not the norm. Most publishers, and I'm talking about the small and medium ones, those are the ones that are going to get left by the wayside. They're not making licensing deals. They're the ones that are going to get scrapped. That's why lawsuits are mounting. The legal frameworks are murky. Is the free and open internet fair game for training AI models? Does the summarization count for transformational use? Can you copyright style, tone, and voice? We don't know yet, but somebody will decide eventually. Meanwhile, what are publishers to do? Should they put up paywalls? Should they throw everything behind a login? Will they try to prevent scraping from those AI bots? Some are removing content from public indexing altogether. All of that comes with a cost. Less visibility, less virality, lower brand reach, and fewer backlinks. It's a classic trap, walling off content to protect the revenue, while losing the very audience that builds that revenue. So what do we end up with? A fragmented internet, where some content is hidden, some content is licensable, and most are just passively feeding the AI that will outcompete its sources. At its core, it's not just about traffic. It's about the value exchange of knowledge. If people who investigate, analyze, critique, and explain can't make money, they'll stop doing it. Or they'll only do it behind closed doors, in PDFs, paid newsletters, paid Substacks, private Slack groups, and the open web will shrink. Not in size, but in usefulness. We'll have an AI that sounds smart, that's trained on content that no longer exists, that is impossible to fact check. That's not a knowledge ecosystem. That's just a big simulation. But ask yourself, can we fix this? Maybe. But we need new frameworks. Better attribution from AI responses with links from the original sources. Shared revenue models. If your content is used, you should get paid for it. Standards for licensing, so it's not just the big players who get the benefit. And ideally, a UI shift that reminds users that that summary came from other sources, and it encourages those users to go to those sources and check things for themselves. Maybe it's opt-in. Maybe it's regulated. Maybe it's actually industry-led. But doing nothing? I don't think that's an option. Will generative AI kill publisher traffic? If nothing changes, yes, it already is. But this doesn't have to be a death sentence. It's an inflection point right now. Just like music adapted to streaming, and albeit kicking and screaming, publishers can adapt to AI. But we need vision. We need fairness. And we are going to need to build new value exchanges between the people that create content and those systems that synthesize and consume that content. If we get that wrong, it's not just the traffic that's going to be lost. We lose the very voices that make the internet worth exploring. The future of the open web is still being written, and you have a part to play. I'm very curious what you think on this topic. I would love to hear your feedback. Please leave a comment. Love to hear from you. In summary, I think that this inflection point is very important for the industry, and I think we'll figure it out eventually. I think we're in a time of turmoil that I think we'll eventually get out of, and I think the open internet will be better off for it. Time will tell, though. Remember to hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.